Welcome to another special edition of EYe on Education. I'm your host, Ed Lecious, and as we've been doing, we're focusing on the candidates running for the Board of Education in the November 2nd municipal election. Joining us today is Caitlyn Fahey-Pearl. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
For people who don't know you, Caitlyn, who is Caitlyn Fahey-Pearl?
I am a mother of four. My husband and I have lived in Nashua for almost 12 years. My son just started college in the fall. He's a law major in Champlain College. I have a junior at Nashua North. I have a sixth grader at Elm Street Middle School, and I have a third grader at Birch Hill Elementary School. So I have children in every part of education right now. We live in a multi-generational home with my parents. I bartend part-time. I started doing that when my daughter was an infant. I left my job as a recruiter. I felt like I was paying for daycare and not a lot after that. So it was a great financial and emotional decision for my family, and it's been working out quite well as we went on to have two more kids after her. I've been a part of the school district since 2010, volunteering, part of the PTO at Birch Hill. I'm still on the board there. Yeah, and I love camping. Well, that's something personal. We do that all summer long, so that's been fantastic.
So what do you feel are the three, should you be elected, the three top priorities facing the next Board of Education?
First, I think that the superintendent search, I think we need a permanent leader. I think that's really important. I think that will help set the tone and help stabilize our district. I know a lot of people feel like a lack of stability. I think bringing conversation back into the boardroom, healthy conversation. We've seen a lot of, just a lot of fighting, and I think that we need to bring that back. And also the redistricting. I have kids that go to Elm Street, and I live over closer to Hollis, so I think that a lot of families, not just the kids that live right at Elm Street, are going to be affected by that, and I think we need to have the community involved in those decisions. And that's my goal, is to bring the parents and the community feel more a part of the decisions.
You mentioned the superintendent search. Given the way the last one played out, do you feel that that could impact the quality of candidates that may apply for consideration here in Nashua?
I do. I think that the way it played out, I found surprising. I thought that, we spent this money, we had these candidates, and then to have one drop out, I was very surprised. I think it's going to affect people wanting to come here. Again, it's that whole stability thing. So I think it's really important that we find somebody that wants to be here and wants to stay here for a long period of time. Like I've said, since 2010, we've seen quite a few superintendents. And I think that'll also affect people's decisions to come here as well.
What do we do about restoring civility to the meetings? And what would you bring to the table if elected for that?
Well, I think first, we need to remember that it's about the kids' education. I know everything in our country right now is very politicized. As an independent voter, my goal is to come back to the middle with our board. Discussion is important. It's okay to disagree. I really believe that when you disagree, that's when you find solutions that fit everybody. And I think that we just need to remember that. Remember why we're there. Remember that even when we're upset as the public, we need to focus on the children. Yelling doesn't always get you anywhere. It just makes the other side yell back at you. And I just want to see more compromise and more discussion.
Looking at the redistricting, and I will say up front that I am on that committee. We've just started our preliminary work, had several meetings, have another one coming up in a month or so. That's something you could be voting on. What would you like to see, and in general terms, because obviously specifics, once you see things, What would you like to see, and how would you like to see that come out?
As far as the redistricting,
The redistricting,
in the
like
schools?
you mentioned, you live up in the northwest sector
Yes.
of the city. Your kids go to Elm Street.
They do, which is already, it's a good ride for a 45-minute bus ride.
And now we've also, with Elm Street closing, we'll be losing the only walk-in
Right.
downtown school.
Right.
So how would you like to see this redistricting play out?
I think it's going to be tricky. I think that transportation is going to be a huge issue. I would like to see kind of an equity within the three middle schools where the populations are similar to each other. And that I think that's going to take a lot of work, again, with the transportation. I mean, where I live, I would think that my children would go to maybe Pennachuck, but if I'd rather see not just within distance, but again, the populations of the school reflect each other so that all the schools' student body looks similar. But again, I think transportation is really going to be key. We have so many walking families in Elm Street that it's going to be quite the undertaking, and I'd like to know what they feel and what they think is the best situation for their families as well.
And right now I can say that there's discussion that which school becomes the walk-in school? Is it Pennachuck?
Right.
Or is it Fairgrounds? But both are off the downtown, if you will,
Yeah.
off Main Street.
Yeah.
So.
And I think that as far as walking schools, safety issues, there's main streets, all the main roads. It's quite the undertaking. And the locations of the schools, worry me because of it just doesn't seem to cover the city well. So I think we'll be missing that when Elm Street closes.
As you've gone campaigning door to door, what are some of the other issues that people have asked your opinion on?
Today I talked to a lot of people who are retired, so I got a different perspective, and a lot of them want to focus on bringing back the civility, like you said, and just kind of set the tone for the district. I know that one woman I talked to today was really concerned about the new middle school and taxes going up. Families that I've talked to are concerned about the tone and the TikTok issues. Today was a big thing from the younger people I talked to, with younger families, social media in our schools, and the effect it's having on bullying. We've seen some fights at the high school, and I think they're highlighted because kids are taping it instead of doing something for it. And I think we need to change our policies like that. That was an interesting discussion I had today.
You mentioned you have children from college down to elementary. What was the discussion like when you brought up the idea of running for the Board of Education amongst your husband, your parents, because you're living with them, as well as your kids?
They've all been really supportive. My son, who is very he loves law and he likes that whole system of government. He's been really supportive and actually very helpful. I've been involved with the schools for a long time, so I don't think my husband was shocked when I told him that I was thinking about running, and he's been super supportive. My parents, they've also been helping. They help with the kids so that I can go out and do, walk through the neighborhoods and talk to people. And overall, my family has been supportive. A little weary, I know that, with the way the meetings have been. A lot of people are like, why are you doing this? And I think I'm doing it because of how the meetings have been. I want parents to feel like, and I know for a little while I didn't feel like it, that advocating for your kids does not mean that you're not a supporter of teachers. And I think that we can all support each other, and that's why I'm running.
Going forward, the dollar is going to be tougher and tougher to stretch, not only by the school department, but other city agencies, reduction from the federal and state governments and funding. How do you perceive to address issues like that if you're on the board in terms of the funding? How would you prioritize the spending?
I think first, our priorities should be with our staffing. We have a huge staffing issue, which is no surprise. I know a lot of industries do. We need to, I think our priority in spending should be our teachers, raising the middle of the step scale, getting substitute teachers. And I know that there has been talk on the raising for them, but we need to find candidates, and our budget needs to support bringing in teachers, keeping our teachers. I have 2 children that are in special education, and paras. Their paras have been the greatest support for my family for the last 8 years. So I would prioritize fixing our staffing issues. My daughter had to sit in the auditorium last week for a few days because her teacher was out. There was no substitute for her to have. So I think that is priority. Going through programs that aren't working and trimming those out is one way to do it because funding is going down.
We're getting near the end here. Is there anything you'd like to say to the voters of Nashua on why that they should support Caitlyn Fahey-Pearl in this race for the Board of Education? I
do. I would say to everybody, I've experienced this district in many different ways. Right now, I think we all need to stay engaged. We need to become a part of the decisions, and I think having parents with children in the schools is really important. I want to be a voice for parents. I want to be a voice for the teachers. I think we can discuss and disagree and still come out with solutions that fit everybody, and that is my goal, to be an independent voice who listens and comes in with an open mind, takes in everybody's point of view and makes decisions based on that and based on the administration in place and their guidance.
Well, Caitlyn, I want to wish you good luck in November 2nd election.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for running, and we'll look forward to seeing what transpires in a couple of weeks.
Thank you.
We've been talking to Caitlyn Fahey-Pearl, candidate for the Board of Education in the November 2nd election here in Nashua. This has been a special edition of EYe on Education. I'm Ed Leishus. Thanks for watching.